to them. And you know, it was kind of bittersweet. It was like nice to know that this band was going to succeed and that it was a really good band, but that also things were going to change. So they show up 20 minutes late, and they're stoned.
And they were just stoned out of their minds.
Totally unruly.
Totally obnoxious. You know, they were just like, oh, they were over it.
I'm this, you know, 24-year-old guy who's completely earnest and wants to ask them about their songcraft, and you know, to them they were just like, yeah, whatever, and I just could not tame them.
All they wanted to do was pull records and play these old bands, Sweet Baby, Mr. T.
Finally I said, well, why don't we play one of your songs? They're like, yeah, that's cool. So I put this song on, and I go over to Jennifer, and I'm like, you've got to help me. You've got to, like, take over this interview. Just take it over. And she's like, no, it's your show. And I like, this is a disaster. I can't, this is just terrible. This is the worst radio moment I've ever had in my life. And she says, oh, okay.
It was a total disaster, train wreck interview. It was like the worst interview ever. But they were hilarious, and they were very, very charming and very funny.
The song ends, and she sits down in the DJ chair and turns on the microphone, and Billy Joe goes, hey, what happened to the last DJ? He was a lot cuter than you are. And she's like, you're no prize yourself. Then, you know, she started asking me about tattoos.
Billy Joe dropped his pants and showed me his tattoo.
He's like, oh yeah, check out my tattoo, you know.
We didn't want to talk about music. And
then later during the broadcast, there's a great moment when we were broadcasting the show later that night where they say, we're being broadcast live on Calix, so don't say anything bad. And the whole crowd goes, shit, fuck, piss. Like they started yelling out all the words that you can't say legally on the air, and we're like, oh. But it was pretty funny.
And after that, they just went on to become huge stars.
And afterwards, Lawrence Livermore, the guy who started Lookout Records, he was waiting upstairs, and he said, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, well, you know, they're a punk rock band.
In 1992, Kerplunk was released, and the band's reputation grew and became Lookout's biggest-selling album ever. However, this emphasised that the band were beginning to outgrow the label. In April 1993, Green Day left Lookout on friendly terms and signed with Reprise. Immediately they went into Fantasy Studios and recorded what was to be their breakthrough LP, Dookie.
Welcome to Fantasy Studios, located right here in beautiful Berkeley, California. We are going to take a little tour today of where Green Day recorded Dookie in 1993. They worked in 3 of our studios here and had a very successful time, and we'd love to show you around, so come on in. We're on our way to Studio A, where the band tracked their record. They started in July, and if you come down this hallway, we'll actually see their framed CD on the wall. I think when the band first came in, I saw them as very young and punkish, and we weren't used to doing a lot of that kind of music yet, because it was almost fairly at the beginning of that genre. And they turned out to be sweet guys and fun, and a real pleasure to work with. They had a maturity about them.
There was a gentleman named John Dukas who used to live in Berkeley, and he was the lead singer for this fabulously great hard rock band called Earthquake in the 70s. And his nickname, being John Dukas, was Dookie. And he hailed from the same area they came from. He came from Pinole, which is just a stone's throw away from Rodeo. And he will say to this day that they named Dookie after him. And I have no idea whether it's true or not, but a number of people have said, hey, Dookie's after John Dukas.
I mean, I don't remember them being very demanding, you know, as they would probably be now. It's just my guess. You know, things change after success.
Dookie was still a record for all the losers, teenage misfits and confused adolescents. It only needed MTV to get behind the single Longview for the Green Day message to be heard worldwide and sell over 14 million copies.
I think that if Green Day hadn't been on MTV with Basket Case, I don't think they'd necessarily be as big as they are now. Because when Basket Case came out, that video was such a great video that I think it got a lot of people into the band. And
without MTV making alternative music safe for the masses kind of thing, kind of softening people up so that, yes, the average 12-year-old kid from Idaho could get into this stuff. I think that sort of helped a lot.
I think television obviously played a good part in their success because people who could never have seen them live playing in Gilman Street in Berkeley are now, you know, if they live in Tulsa or Topeka, Kansas, they're able to see them and enjoy the music. And, you know, that's not bad if you can pull it off.
So here we are in Studio D, where the band moved into to mix their record. And Guy Lento, actually, our chief tech, was around in that time too. So Guy, do you remember anything about the band being here with Rob Cavallo?
Well, yeah, I remember that they were all analog, right? They definitely wanted to go old school. You know, you could tell that their idols were the Who and the Kinks, because I remember they were jamming with Rob Cavallo. They were playing guitar. Cavallo was a guitar player too, and you know, you'd come in at night and they'd be playing like Substitute or some, you know, old Who song like that.
Basket Case spent 5 weeks at #1 on the US rock charts. And with Dookie winning the 1994 Grammy Award for the Best Alternative Music Performance, Green Day were hitting the big time.
When Green Day really took off after Woodstock 2, it was muddy. It was probably like how Glastonbury is. I mean, it was like a huge, just rainy mud field. And instead of, you know, shrinking from it or like, you know, pushing their instruments back and not being in the rain and the mud, Green Day, the fans started throwing clots of mud at Green Day. And what they did is they started throwing it back. And it was just like this huge free-for-all that was covered on all the media. I mean, people just saw that. And what had happened during it is one of the security guards had thought Mike Dirnt was just a fan who had scrambled on stage and had like got him in like a, you know, a headlock. And during that, some fan had hauled off and threw a big clod of dirt and hit him right in the teeth, and he had like his mouth was bloody and he had lost all his front teeth. And you know, they kept playing, you know, I mean, and as I said, it just made them this band that was, again, like their fans. They were like just in the moment. They were just engaged in all of, you know, this raucousness, and it was just an amazing news story. But I think that, coupled with the music, because they'd already released Dookie and it was selling fabulously, and then they had the Woodstock 2 news coverage, I think that all of a sudden lodged them in everybody's minds as, hey, this band is like the real deal. You know, they really care. They give a great show, and it's like showbiz. The show must go on despite the bloody teeth. So I think that's the moment.
When Green Day started to take off, I had mixed feelings about it, and my only possibly negative feelings would be jealousy. Like, I thought they were doing something really cool, and you know, now that I know a little bit more about what that life entails, I think I'm a bit less attracted to it, but I was just really happy for them. You know, I mean, they were working with a great producer, and things were just going very well for them.
I happened to say to Trey, well, how's your band doing? Is it just getting by, or you got a day job, or how's it going? He said, well, our last record sold about 9 million records. I went, whoa, well, good, good for you. And I realized that, you know, his perseverance has paid off over all the time, because they were quite dedicated.
This is the house where Green Day lived just prior to being signed, and I think they shot some of their first video there with Billy chopping up the couch. And there's a legend that supposedly the day they got signed, they all left and just left all their stuff there because they had so much fucking money, which is, I think it's probably bullshit. But that is the myth.
The band delivered on everything they'd promised. And after the festival season and the start of their second tour, the band took the unprecedented step of fixing ticket prices at a maximum of $20 per head.
That's just like one of the things that Green Day is about, is they're trying to make it a fun show for everybody, and they know that people, you know, don't make enough money to be paying like $50 for a ticket or something like that.